Welcome back to another day of Vlogmas. I'm going to be giving you guys book recommendations if you have never read a book. Hey guys, it's Emma. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to another day of Vlogmas, and in today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys book recommendations if you have never read a book or if you're trying to get into new books. A lot of the books I'm going to be talking about are very popular books, so if you are really into reading and you have read a lot of these books before, then maybe this isn't the video for you. I feel like some people that may watch my videos don't really read books, so I do want to get people into reading because I have gotten questions before from some people asking like what books they should start off by reading because they've never read a book before. So I have some good recommendations that I think people should read if they want to start getting into reading. So very easy reads to get into, nothing too crazy. Also, I'm not like one of those crazy readers. I have read about 60 books this year, so that is a lot. I think 60 books is crazy. Not many people could get up to like 5 books a year, so I am proud of myself for how many books I read, but there are a lot of other booktubers that read like 100 books a year, over 100, so I think they definitely may have a lot more options to give you guys, but I have the basics, and I think these are definitely like basic good reads if you want to just get into reading. So I have a few options for us to talk about, so let's get right into it. So first, we're going to talk about some mystery books. Obviously, I'm going to be talking about different genres. I haven't read much of different genres, but the ones I read have been good, so I'm going to recommend you the ones that I think are the best. So for mystery, I have A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. This whole series, I've read the first 2 books. I still need to read the last one, but this series is so easy to read and fly through. I read this not too long ago, and it took me not even like a week to complete. It was so easy to get into. It's about Pip, who she's writing her, I think, like final assignment or something, and she wants to solve this mystery case that it was closed, and everyone just decided that this one kid was the murderer of a teenage girl, and she just doesn't believe it. She wants to use that as her like final report or something, but I don't think it gets approved. But she's like, I still want to figure it out because she just doesn't believe that whatever they settled on is true. So you just see her go through this book. You see a bunch of crazy stuff happen to her and just things that are happening in the book. And it was so interesting to follow along. The second book, you follow kind of a new mystery that she's trying to trying to solve, I guess. And then the third book, I'm guessing it's the same thing. I'm guessing it's just another mystery, but I haven't gotten into that one yet. Yeah, this series is so easy to follow. There's a little bit of a side plot of romance, which is also super cute. This is also a Netflix series. The first book at least became into a Netflix series. So yeah, if you guys want to get into this, I think definitely read the books because I think, TV series, they kind of miss out on a lot of stuff. I do really like how they, made the Netflix series. I think it was on Netflix, not quite sure. But I do really like how they adapted it, but I still love the books. They have a special place in my heart. So I do think this is one of the best mystery books I've read. Next, we have some thriller books, and I have read a few, but I'm gonna give you guys my favorites and the ones that honestly shocked me the most, because in thrillers, I feel like we all look for that good plot twist that's really gonna get us. And the first book that I read that I actually was shocked by the plot twist and everything in it was The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. I feel like this one is advertised a lot because of how good the plot twist in this book is and just how thrilling it is. It's basically about a girl that she becomes the maid for this like rich people's like home. She cleans up for them. She ends up like cooking for them and taking care of the kids. She thinks that the wife is just like really weird, really sus. No one really likes the wife. Like they're like, she's so weird. Her husband is beautiful, and just everything about the house is a little weird to her. So she has to stay in like a room like upstairs or something because she obviously has to live there so that she could clean the house. Basically, the door only locks from the outside, and again, another part of the house, another part of the whole thing that's just very weird to her. You just follow her go through a bunch of things in this book, and I don't want to say too much because I went into this book a little bit blind, and it was just so much better. It's so much better going into a book blind, especially if it's a thriller, because then you just get shocked at literally anything that happens in the book. So that's all I'm going to tell you guys, because the plot twist at the end really got me. I was so shocked. And this book, it has 2 other books after this, which is The Housemaid's Secret and The Housemaid is Watching. I have heard that those books weren't really necessary because it's kind of like the same thing. I think this same maid or something goes and helps other people with their houses or like situations that they're in after this book. So there's that. There's also a novella. I don't really know what that one's about. I think that recently came out. I'm not sure. Yeah, this one I think is definitely the best because it's the first book. I feel like the first books are always the best. So yeah, that's one thriller. Then this one might be a little controversial because it is Colleen Hoover. But when I first read this book, Verity, I loved it so much. This book is honestly so creepy. Probably one of the creepiest books I've ever read about. And it's honestly kind of similar to The Housemaid. I read The Housemaid because people were saying that it was similar to Verity because I did read this first. This book is about Loan, who she's trying to find a job, and she eventually gets a job with Verity. She basically has to write this like manuscript or something for Verity because Verity got in like this accident or something. So she lives in the house because all Verity's stuff is there, so it's just easier for her to be there. She grows attached to Verity's husband, and they have this kid that's also a little bit weird when you read it in the book. As she's reading Verity's manuscript, she's reading everything that she wrote about and finds it extremely like crazy. She's like, this lady's kind of crazy. She wants to tell Jeremy, which is Verity's husband that she's starting to care for, and she wants to tell him, but she's like, it's none of my business, but also like it's wrong if I don't tell him. You see her go through all of that, and then there's just another crazy plot twist in this book that honestly got me. I was like, wow, these people are crazy. There's also an extended like epilogue or something, and I ended up reading that too, and that epilogue is crazy. So I think if you read this book for the first time, try and get the book with the extended epilogue or find it somewhere, because I think not that it adds to the story, but it clears things up a little bit more. Like, you kind of settle your feelings on how you feel about each and every character that is in this book. Yeah, that's this book. And then next, I don't have the physical copy, but I did read it, and it is The Silent Patient. This one also got popular when people like first started reading. I think like probably in 2020. I don't really know when this book came out, but it was really popular, and I only read it recently. And this book was also super, super good. I wasn't really interested throughout the whole of the book because you're kind of following her story and everything that's happened in her life. And it's basically about Alicia, I think, and she's in like this mental hospital or something because she got put in there for killing her husband. This guy is like interviewing her. He doesn't really believe that she's in the wrong and wants to kind of help her because, also, after she killed her husband, she went mute. Like, no one talks to her. She doesn't talk to anyone. She has these, like, outbursts of rage, and everyone's just like, well, we can't even talk to her and ask her why she did that because she doesn't talk. So, you see, like, her story, and then you see this guy trying to, like, get stuff out of her and talk to her. As you're reading, you're kind of thinking, like, oh, maybe this person has something to do with her story, and you're just trying to, obviously, I feel like when you read a thriller, you try to find out the plot twist before you even get to it, and honestly, I didn't expect it at all. So the plot twist in this book is also very, very good. Next, we have some fantasy books. So I just recently read this book, and I actually really loved it. It was Once Upon a Broken Heart. It's about Evangeline. She's like a hopeless romantic. She really liked this guy, and then he got married to someone else, and she wants to stop the wedding. So she makes a deal with the Prince of Hearts, and everyone says like, don't make a deal with him. You're not supposed to. It's not good. But obviously she does, and some bad things happen. And you see them kind of form a bond. You see Evangeline go through a bunch of stuff in this book. I don't really want to say much. Again, I went to this book very blind, and I think I just enjoy books more like that. But that's basically everything you need to know about the story, and this book is a trilogy. I actually haven't read the next two books, but I'm so excited to see what's going to happen, who the love interest is going to be, even though I already probably know. I do think this book is really good, and it's super easy. It's such an easy world. It is magical, but it's like very fairy tale-esque. Like, I don't know, it's very easy to understand. It's not complicated at all. This comes from someone who hasn't read much fantasy. I have read like Fourth Wing. What's that one series? The Cruel King? Is that what the series is called? Yeah, I read that too, but I didn't like those as much as the two fantasy books that I'm going to recommend you guys. A lot of people love Fourth Wing, so if you do want to read that one, I suggest you do. I just didn't love it. I did give it like 4 stars. It did get a lot of hype, and I didn't really understand that much of the hype. So yeah, I do have my 2 fantasy books that I'm recommending you guys, and that is Once Upon a Broken Heart, and then I also have Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. I absolutely love this book. This is another world that is very easy to understand, I think. I think in the second book, it gets a little bit more complicated because it's focused more on the fantasy world aspect of it. This one is more of a romantasy. You get a lot of the romance in this book. Basically, it's about Roman and Iris, I think. And basically, they have their grandparents like typewriters, and Iris wants to write to her brother who is in like this war of like the gods of the world, and her brother is at war right now. She basically wants to write to him, so she writes this letter, and she's sending the letter, but she thinks the letters are going to her brother when really it's going to Roman, and they are like enemies. They work at different like writing places, and they do not like each other, or they work in the same place but they're just like competitive. I don't really know, but I know they don't like each other, and her letters are basically going to Roman when she thinks they're going to her brother, and then Roman starts writing back, and eventually you see Roman grow a soft spot for her throughout them writing the letters to each other, and it's just the best thing ever because she thinks that he doesn't like her, and you think that, oh, you guys didn't like each other, but really he's obsessed with her. And yeah, I love the romance in this book. Everything about this book is perfect. Again, this is another world where it's super easy to understand. It's basically just like there's gods of the worlds that where you're not really supposed to like speak of, and it's dangerous to go to war because they're like around in the war. But you get more, I feel like you get a lot more into that in the second book, which this is only a duology. It's not a long series, which is great because, you know, when it's a short series, it's much easier to understand and get through. Yeah, but I think Divine Rivals is such a good fantasy book to start with because it's just so easy to understand, and it is so good. Next, we have some poetry books, and this is more for the people that like don't want to read a super long book. If they want like a book to like just go back to whenever they want, because I know when I read these poetry books, I feel like, I don't know why, but I started reading these poetry books when I was like not doing well, and they honestly did something for me. They were so good. So this is just if you want like something short and sweet to read that is gonna hit in the places it needs to hit, these are the books for you. So I Gave Myself the World. This is the cover. Basically, I feel like this talks a lot about like personal conflict, and like there's just so many things that you can relate to in this book. I have this annotated so much. Like if you guys see, let me put the mic down. I love annotating my poetry books, and I actually haven't gone back, which I do want to go back to read them because I remember loving this book, crying, smiling, everything, all of the above. I'm gonna see if I could find one that I can read to you guys. Okay, I'm gonna read this one. It's called The Devil. It says, there are people you will encounter out there in this world who will drain you. It could be over the course of 5 minutes or 5 years, but they will leech the joy from your heart. And some of them will be wrapped up and topped with pretty little bows, dainty lips over sinister grins, gentle, soft hands with fingers crossed behind their backs, and you will want to trust them. You will want to believe they are good for you, but you will feel the light inside you dimming ever so slowly, and you cannot ignore that. No matter the high their attention may give you, I promise you it is not worth the low experience when you lose yourself. That one, that one hits. And just imagine a bunch of pages worth of poetry, you know, stuff like that. I think it's about like 200-ish pages, but this one is so good. Then I read this one. This one's a little shorter, but it's called Sometimes I Fall Asleep Thinking About You. You could probably, I think it's by the same, it is by the same author. Great author, because obviously I have two of her poetry books. I didn't really realize that it was the same. This one is so cute. Like, it looks like I wrote that, but it's just how the book is. It basically says, I let you become so much more than you ever deserve to be, but I swear to God, I will not let you become everything. Yeah, there's a lot of, like, you could probably imagine what the book is about by the title. Sometimes I fall asleep thinking about you. The next page, it literally says, I don't think you would fall in love with the person I am now. If you did, I don't think I would love you back, at least not in the way I loved you before. There's that question ringing in the back of my mind. Maybe all we needed was time to grow. I don't allow myself to think of it for long. There's no point in believing I will ever get an answer. I need to take a picture of that, like, right now. Anyway, yeah, I also really liked this book. And then this one isn't a poetry book, but it is a very, like, I feel like maybe inspirational, growth helping book. And that is 101 Essays That'll Change the Way You Think. I feel like no matter who you are, boy, girl, mom, dad, cousin, uncle, I don't know, anyone should read this book. They have so many essays, 101, that you can pick from that will relate to any scenario you're going through, or you know, anything you have gone through in the past, you will go through in the future. And yeah, I love this book so much. I have read a few chapters and some have really hit. I feel like, again, it just helps a lot if you're going through a certain situation. I can guarantee that this book has a chapter that you can read about that will help whatever you're going through, or whatever you think you need to read to help you get out of a situation. I think literally everyone should buy this book and should read this book because this could be very helpful and could help you grow as a person, no matter who you are. Now we have my favorite genre, which is romance. I do have a couple more, obviously, because I do read a lot more romance. I have read a lot of romance books, but I did want to recommend the best books that I think are best for getting into. A lot of the books, they're not the best to get into, and maybe you can read later on, but the ones I'm going to recommend right now are if you literally have not read a book before and you want an easy romance to get into, I have the perfect ones. So we're going to start off strong with Beach Read by Emily Henry. This one, I only got this book because I specifically wanted to recommend Emily Henry. She is such a good author, and all her books are probably the best romance books I've ever read. The banter in here is so good. She just knows how to write her characters, and she has so many other plot lines in books. Like, besides the romance, there's so many other things that you learn in her books. Like, I know in Happy Place is another one of my favorite books of hers. In that book, it focuses a lot on like friendship, and I loves that aspect of the book. So a lot of her books, they don't focus fully on the romance. Keep that in mind maybe. But Beach Read, I love this book so much. It's basically about January and Gus. They are both writers. They were kind of enemies in college because had like a rivalry, kind of. They both write, and now January goes to her where her father used to live on this like little beach town, and Gus is right next door to her. They're basically in like writing slumps, so they go to help each other. Basically, Gus takes January on dates to inspire her writing her romance story, and then Gus takes January on like different adventures. I think he writes like mystery or something. I don't really know what genre he writes, but they're basically taking each other to different places to help each other find ideas to write about. Yeah, this is just one Emily Henry book. I love every single one of Emily Henry's books. So find the book that you think you'd be interested in the most and read that one. And if you like that book, read another Emily Henry book because honestly, her books are so good. Next, we have Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. This is another very popular book. It is a YA romance, so if you don't like YA, maybe don't read it, but this book, it's honestly not cringy at all. It literally feels like the perfect rom-com book. In the title, it's literally called Better Than the Movies. It feels like the coziest little movie. Like, if this was put into a movie, I think it would be so good. It's about Liz and Wes. They do not like each other. Again, I don't know what's up with these, like, they don't like each other. But basically, they have been neighbors for the longest time since they were kids, and they never really liked each other. But Liz has this crush on someone at school, and Wes is like, you need help, I'm gonna help you get him. You do need some help with the flirting and like trying to get him. So he's kind of helping her do that, and obviously you see them grow something in this book, and it's honestly such a cute book. I really do want to reread this book because I haven't read this in such a long time, and everyone loves this book. So yeah, I just kind of miss these characters, miss this book. And Lynn Painter, she does have a lot more books, I think. She also wrote The Do-Over, which I really liked. There's also Betting on You, but I didn't love that one. But I did love this one, The Do-Over. I know she came out with a sequel to this book, which is called Nothing Like the Movies. I think if you want to start off with reading or with Lynn Painter, I think definitely Better Than the Movies is the perfect book because it's a cute, easy read to get into. So yeah, there's this one. Next, we have When in Rome by Sarah Adams. This book also got very popular on TikTok, but this is such a cute, easy read. Look how short it is. I don't know if you can tell, but it's literally such a short read, and it's about Amelia and Noah. Basically, Amelia is like a pop star, forgot that aspect, and she just wanted to escape from all of that because she was kind of tired of it. So she wanted to go to this little town because she loves Audrey Hepburn, and in one of Audrey Hepburn's films, she goes to Rome, but she was like, I can't go all the way to Italy, Rome, so I'm gonna go to Rome, Kentucky, and that's where she went, but her car breaks down in front of Noah and his house. So he invites her in, and he's like, until your car is fixed, you could stay here in the guest room. But he ends up really liking her, and he is like a baker or something. He bakes pies, I think. Yeah, they grow this really cute relationship, and this one's just also such a cute, easy read. The next book after this one is Practice Makes Perfect, which was also such a good book. It's about his sister and her bodyguard. So yeah, that one was really good. But Sarah Adams has so many books. She has the cheat sheet, the rule book, and a few more, I think. But again, her books are just so easy, short and sweet, And yeah, they're super, super cute. I think these are just so easy to get into because you read them super quick and they're enjoyable stories. Next, we have The Summer of Broken Rules. This one I'll probably recommend specifically for the summertime because obviously, look at the cover, look at the title. It is such a good book. I love this book so much. It's one of my favorite books of all time that I've ever read. And it's about Meredith. She has to go back to this vineyard, I think, where her sister just passed, or not just passed away, but her sister did pass away, and she hasn't gone back there since, and she just wanted to go back because she hasn't talked to any of the family over there, and she just wants to just be better and doesn't want to be like sad anymore. So she goes back, reconnects with all the family. They play a game of assassin, which is so much fun. Oh, she's going back for a wedding. That's what it is. She's going back for her cousin's wedding, and I think she strikes up a romance with the best man or one of the groomsmen, and their romance is so cute. Everything about this book is literally perfect. The game of assassin is so much fun. The romance, the setting in this book is so cute. So yeah, this is also another very easy book to get into. K.L. Walther, she also has other books that are, I think they're like YA. I think a lot of her books are YA. They're also just very easy to read, very easy to get into because the plot lines, they're fun. It's not like anything complicated to understand. And the last book that I'm going to recommend is the first book in the Chestnut Spring series, but really I'm recommending the whole Chestnut Spring series by Elsie Silver. Honestly, anything Elsie Silver is perfect. If you love a good cowboy romance, these are the books for you because I think she writes the best cowboy romances ever. Flawless was the first book I ever read by her, and I read this book so quick. Her books are just so fast-paced and easy to get into. Once you finish a chapter, you want to go right into the next one, and the romances in this book are honestly so strong, and all of these characters in all her series, they feel so real. Like, honestly, after reading the Chestnut Spring series, I feel like these people are my family, which sounds so crazy, but that's just how much I connected to these characters and how good the writing was, that the characters just felt real to me. Basically, this first book, Flawless, is about a bull rider that gets into some PR like trouble. He like says something in front of a cameraman, and basically he's getting in some trouble now, and his boss puts his daughter to basically babysit him and make sure he's like doing the right things, saying the right things. Kind of just annoyed that she's following him around and has to babysit him. You know, they have like forced proximity because she has to follow him around, so like where he's bull riding and all of that, his practices. So yeah, this romance is so good, but the rest of the romances are amazing. My favorite book in this series is Reckless. It's the fourth book, so you gotta take a while to get there, but you could technically read them out of order. You just get kind of glimpses of the characters and the couples from the books before in the future books. So I would suggest reading it in order, but you don't really have to. But yeah, Reckless is my favorite. Heartless, the second book, is another one of my favorites. But honestly, all these books are so good. She also has the Gold Rush Ranch series, which is her first ever series, I'm pretty sure. And my favorite book in that one is The Front Runner. That's the third book, I think. That one is so good. And then she just recently came out with Rose Hill series, which I'll talk about in a second, because now we're actually going to move on to just some of my favorite books. If you guys want personal opinions, personal suggestions, I have my favorite books to recommend. So we're going to start with her Rose Hill series by Elsie Silver. The first book is Wild Love. She just recently came out with Wild Eyes, and the next book that's going to come out is called Wild Side. And I'm really excited for that one. But Wild Love is the first book. It's about Ford and I think Rosie. Ford has been best friends with Wes since they were little, and Rosie is Wes' little sister. So it's basically brother's best friend trope for Rosie, of course. Ford is opening up this recording studio, and all the books in this series are also single dad. So he finds out he's a dad, and he's like, well, now I have to start taking care of this girl. And Rosie is looking for a new job because she left like where she was living, the city, to come work with him and just find something easier to do. Yeah, you see her helping Ford with everything, including the kid, and just everything about this book is so perfect. You get a little flashback from when they were younger and how Ford has honestly always had a little crush on her, and she's always had a little crush on him. And yeah, I love romances like that when they have like a history. So this one's so cute. My favorite though is the second book, Wild Eyes. That one I literally gave 5 stars. It was such a good book. That one is obviously about Rosie's big brother. He's a single dad with 2 kids, and the female main character, Skylar, is this huge like singer. She's going there. She wanted to record without her manager and producer like on top of her, so she wanted to record something by herself. So she meets up with Ford to record in his studio, which is very close to where West is staying. Yeah, she's staying near West in like West's little house on the side, and they become close, and just everything about that book is so perfect. There's so much more depth to Elsie Silver's books too that just again make the characters feel so real, and you get to connect to them on a deeper level. So yeah, I could honestly talk about Elsie Silver forever, but we do have to move on to my other favorite books. This one also may be a little controversial, but it's another Colleen Hoover book. It's called Reminders of Him. This is probably my favorite Colleen Hoover book. And this one is about a mother, Kenna. She had to go to jail for something, and I honestly can't remember. But I think I would want to reread this book to remember everything, because I gave this book 5 stars too. And she was basically in jail for 5 years, and now she's coming out and she wants to get back in contact with her daughter. Why can't I remember what's happening? Ledger, I think, is like, he was best friends with her father, but I think he might have passed away. Yeah, I think so. So Ledger is just very close with the daughter and with the grandparents of the daughter. So Kenna tries to get back in contact with her daughter and the grandparents, and they're like, no, we're not gonna let you back in her life. But she meets Ledger and they strike up a little romance, and then he finds out who she is. He wants to like stop everything, but then he's like, I really like her and I see her side. I see why she wants to see her daughter, but then I can't, because I also see the grandparent side and why they don't want to let her near them. And it's honestly such a heartbreaking book, because you see both sides to the story. You see why Kenna made a mistake and wants to see her daughter, but then you see the grandparent side of why they're like, we can't let you do that. And honestly, everything about this book, it's just so good. So if you're going to read a Colleen Hoover book, I suggest this one, and obviously Verity that I recommended before, but this is one of my favorite books ever. Next, we have a Taylor Jenkins Reid book. This is my favorite book of hers, and it's called After I Do. This one is about a couple that they've been married for a long time, but they're reaching a point where they're kind of just like sick of each other. They're arguing all the time, and they're like, you know what? I honestly think we need to take a break, just see where we go individually and in our relationship, because it's needed. Like, I'd rather just have a break than us keep on arguing and fighting. And basically, they make a deal to split for 1 year, see what happens, and if anything, they'll get back together or they won't. So you just see them go through that. You only get the female main character's point of view, but a little bit towards the end, you get to, I don't want to say much again, because I like going into books blind, so I don't want to tell you guys that much, but you get to see a little bit of the male main character's point of view in some sort of way. Again, this was another book that I absolutely loved. I connected to this book so much for some reason, and I feel like Taylor Jenkins Reid, she does so good at throwing little hints in there that make you think so much harder. Like, just single lines that make you think if it's related to the story or not. I'm going to try and see if I can find a line, because I know there were, like, so many of her chapters ended in a way where it just made you think so much more. Okay, I can't really find anything. I've literally spent like 5 minutes looking. But there's definitely like quotes in this book that make you think more, and it's just such a deep book. It's not only about the romance, but like when she's going on her own and trying to discover like how she feels about her relationship, but she's also trying to like find herself and be better with the relationships around her. Like, even I remember even a relationship with a dog, like they share a dog, the couple. There's stuff with the dog that's like just so cute, and then her sisters, her mom, her mom's boyfriend, everything in this book. I just love this book so much. It just has such a deeper meaning. And if you have not read this book, please read this book. At least try it, because it is so good, and again, it just has such a deeper meaning. Next, we have Things We Never Got Over. This is the first book in the Knock 'Em Out series. This one is a thick book, which is probably why I wouldn't recommend to start with it, because it is a little hard to get into a book that is this thick. This book is not only a romance, it follows a little bit of a mystery throughout the book too, because the main character has a twin sister, and no one in this town likes the twin sister because of stuff that she's done in that town. She's like, wait, I didn't even know my twin sister was here. She comes to this town, she meets Knox. I don't remember much of the plot of the story, like what happens with that romance, but basically Naomi is left to take care of her twin sister's daughter, and you see them grow a friendship. You see her relationship grow with Knox, and then you have everything that's going on with her twin sister and like what she's doing, what they're trying to figure out, like all the, mystery stuff that's happening. So that's why it's such a thick book. There's so much going on in this book, but It is a very good series. Honestly, this one is my favorite in the series. I did like all the books. You get the first book with Knox. The second book is with his brother Nash, which is like, he's more of like the good guy. Knox is like the grumpy type. Nash is like the good guy, police officer. Everyone loves him. And then the third book is about Lucian, which he grew up with them. And he's also very grumpy. He's very mysterious. Like, we don't really know what's up with him until his third book when you read all about him. And yeah, if you do want a good series to just get into, connect to, I think this is a great series too, but it's a little thick. All the books are a little thick. And the last book I have that I wouldn't recommend, but it is my favorite series ever, that is the Magnolia Park series. My friend actually just recently read this book and she did not like it at all, which it was honestly heartbreaking to me. I told her, like, I don't even want to know your thoughts. The fact that you just said you didn't like it is enough for me. When it comes to the series, I'm so connected to these characters and everything that they go through, and just the roller coaster that happens throughout this whole series. So basically, you start with Magnolia Parks. The second book is Daisy Hates. So it's like different characters in this series and in their point of views, but it's around the same timeline. And then the third book is you go back to Magnolia Parks, The Long Way Home, and then you go back to Daisy Hates, The Great Undoing, for the fourth book. And then the fifth book is Magnolia Park's last book, which is Into the Dark, which I recently read this year. The way the story wrapped up was so perfect. The characters were meant to end up where they end up, and yeah, they just go through so much together individually. This is advertised to be like Gossip Girl. They do live in like London. They're very rich, high-end, people. They're known. Like, I don't know if they're celebrities, but they are like known people because they're always in like magazines and stuff when they get into like any sort of drama. Yeah, it's a very entertaining book. It's not a book where you're gonna be like, oh my god, I love the characters in this book. They just are so real. You see them go through so much that, of course, they're not gonna be the most likable characters, but in the end, you kind of see where they're coming from and see that everything they've been through and where they end up. So yeah, this book, it is kind of hard to recommend, but I just want to say it is my favorite series, and if you want to give it a try, I would be more than happy, because even if someone doesn't like it, like my best friend, I am glad that she did read the book and she was able to try it, and she is willing to continue reading at least the Daisy Hates books. So I am happy about that. But yeah, I love this series with my whole heart. So if you're willing to try it, then that's great. But yeah, those are all the books I recommend if you are starting to get into reading, or if you've only read a few books and want some easy reads to get into and just read quickly. Those are all the books that I recommend. And obviously, if you don't want to take any of the books I recommended, TikTok is such a good place to find books, or even like YouTube videos. You could find so many specific recommendations if you want recommendations off of like tropes, genres, friends to lovers, characters, anything like that. YouTube videos are so helpful because people make like specific recommendation videos. Yeah, this is just a very broad book recommendations video if you are, just starting to get into reading. Yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to give it a like, subscribe, turn on your post notifications so you know when I post my next video, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for another day of Vlogmas. Bye!